Hello fellow RPG makers and welcome to another video. I have received quite a lot of requests for battles, so I'll try to deliver some battles, although I instantly regretted starting it because it is a really complex topic. So here we have an event that deals with the battle, and to start things up, let's start with GameCrew, which is a very important game object because it contains the information about current troop, its troop ID, which is 1, turn count, that is only in battle, names count, we have 2 bats, so oops, I did not mean that. So let's restart the battle. Names count, we have 2 bats, so this is here, 2 bats. Now in battle, which is true, and of course the data about enemies, which are, as we can see, pretty similar to game actors. If I go game actors, actor 1, I can see that there are HP, MP, TP, and many other things similar to one another. Actors just have equips and other things unique to the actor. Now it is important, or not important, but interesting to note that currently we are on turn 0. But if we go on click and go to GameCrew again, we can see immediately some changes. The event flags we have zeroed, which is true, and that is because if I go to the troop, I can see the first page has a turn 0 condition, which means it will start before the battle starts. So this does not mean turn 0, but this means first page is true, which means it can be executed. Whether it will be executed or not depends on the span. The second page is a 1 plus X, so it is a turn 1 condition, and then whenever this condition will be true, which means every turn, there will be a 1 colon true. If I had a 0 plus 2 times X, it would be true once every 2 turns, etc. But it is also interesting that the enemy still has no action, but when the turn starts, which is now, GameCrew, enemies, you can see that they have already selected an action and are waiting for our input. The game action, which is another important thing, has only basic data, accepts subject and forcing as 2 parameters, where subject, if it is an actor, it will set its actor ID, and if it is an enemy, it says the enemy index. It is important to know that enemies can only be accepted through GameCrew, which stores only their array, and since indexes of arrays start from 0, it is completely pointless for this to start from 1. Now, if we take a more detailed look inside the action, we can see that it also contains an item, which is an object game item that contains 2 pieces of data. One is data class. We have either skill when a skill gets cast. We can also have an item when an item is used. And here we have the item ID. In other words, since it is 1 and it is a skill, the bat is casting a basic attack, which, since it is his only skill, checks out. Now everything inside the game action gets resolved in these many member functions. There are a ton of them, so I'm not going to cover them. Nevertheless, after the action is resolved, then the resulting data gets stored inside a game action result. Let's create one, new game action result. Now it is important to know that there is no data here because we don't have it tied to any action, but as you can see, it can contain a lot of data: added, buffs, debuff states, removed, and then the type of damage that happened. Another important, it is not exactly variable, but another important thing is Battle Manager, which manages the battle as the name says. However, if we try to access Battle Manager and hit enter, we cannot see any interesting info because it is a static class, and even though it has some member functions and some variables, they are all the members of static class. So if we tried new Battle Manager, it would crash. So instead we need to kind of cheese it. Battle Manager dot prototype. You can see here the constructor, and if we click, we can see the member functions. There is a ton of them, and underneath it we can see the member variables. For example, since I don't have any map BGM or map BGS, the name here is empty, but if I had some map BGM for the battle, it would be here. Can escape and can lose is false, since the battle I cannot escape. And then there are many variables that are value dependent based on how the battle progresses. Nevertheless, you can see that the data is up to date because we have face input. And in fact, if I try to fight, and let's say I'll guard 4 times, let's put the Battle Manager here, and click the Battle Manager prototype once the turn starts. After I click here, and click here, I'll search for input, the face. As you can see, it is in face turn now. Another important thing is the sprite set. Here are also, by the way, important windows, but about them maybe later. Sprite set, which of course contains the visual data about all of this, and just like the sprite set for map, it is saved inside the current scene ._sprite set. So this can access the sprite set, and in fact the children, in other words, the Battleback 1, Battleback 2, these 2 and these 4 can be accessed simply using scene manager ._scene ._sprite set .children 2 0 .children 2. And unlike scene map, this does not have any funky z index, so the order here is exactly how it is ordered. So tiling sprite 0 and tiling sprite 1, these are, if we take a look inside the battlebacks of a map, here we can specify the battleback. So this is 0, this is 1, this is on top of this. Underneath we have the 2 sprite enemies, so underneath we have sprite enemies in a particular order as they shoot, and underneath we have sprite actors in a particular order as they shoot. So nothing funky here. Sprites are of course important too because they store a lot of important information, most importantly the appearance and location. Location is set by home X and home Y, which is the home location, in other words their home, and by default when they use action they go forward, perform their action and then go back home where they stand. And if I want to influence their current location and they are staying home, I cannot use the normal X. If I try scene manager dot underscore scene dot underscore sprite set children 0 children 2 dot children 4 dot x equals 200, the sprite will not move. In fact, I can even try this X. It is because the sprite is at home, so it uses the home X coordinate. If I edit the home X to 200, you can see that the sprite has moved. And if you're interested in knowing where you can set their location by default, it is, if you take a look inside RPG scene, not RPG scenes, RPG sprites, there is a sprite actor prototype set actor home here. So you can edit this or alias it or whatever you want to do with it, and set the actors to have their own coordinates. It accepts index as a parameter because if you take a look inside the battle, you don't know if this actor is actually the first in the party or if it is last in the party. So they need to be accessed by party index, so it accepts the party index as a parameter. Now, setting enemies location is not so easy, because if we take a look at set home, you can see the set home is called inside set battler, and it accepts two parameters, screen X and screen Y of a battler. However, the problem is the battler itself does not have any index inside, so storing a location based on index is more difficult and requires some edit. Anyway, if you want to redefine the enemy's location, you definitely can. I'll redefine the actor's location just for fun. So set actor home. Now let's make them stand at the very top. So set actor home, I can just copy it and blatantly paste it in the plugin. Oops, wrong plugin. So here, this set home 0 plus index times 32, 0 plus index, wait, y0, y0. So let's save it, let's restart the battle. The actors are way up here, you can see their shadows. I totally forgot that their anchor is a little bit somewhere else. So let's quit this and let's move them a little bit down. So 48 should be enough. So now we have the actors standing at the top, and the reason why they moved from here to here is because they initialized their position at 300, 0, so from there they moved to here. Okay, so that will be the basic introduction, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.